The auto industry executives buckle up. A new report finding electric vehicle sales could drop nearly 30% if President-elect Donald Trump repeals the EV tax credit. And automakers will have to find ways to pick up the slack somewhere else.
Joining us now, Thomas Savage is with the American Institute for Economic Research, and Pete Sepp is the president of the National Taxpayers Union. Gentlemen, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So, Pete, I want to start with you. The report reads, quote, EV sales in the U.S. would drop 27% if the federal EV tax credit were removed. This would lead to EV registrations falling to 867,000 EVs from 1.184 million with the tax credit in place, or 317,000 fewer EVs. So will the removal of these incentives make EVs significantly more expensive, Pete?
It might do so, but we need to consider other trade-offs that could be beneficial if the EV credit were repealed. It's important to remember the total share of the market for electric vehicles is still around 8% of all cars and trucks manufactured. It's not a huge market despite making gains because of a tax credit. That's the other problem. If a tax credit is the thing propping up the market, then the market's not working properly. Consumer preferences should be the one that dominate the market rather than the presence of a tax credit, which, by the way, primarily goes to people making more than $100,000. Getting rid of the credit could produce benefits elsewhere in the economy. If the revenue is put to work in cutting other types of destructive taxes, you could actually have an economic gain.
Glass half full type guy. I like that, Pete.
That's interesting.
Yeah, different way to look at it. So, Thomas, it could be argued that when the government got involved with mandates and then realizing they're mandating it, so they want to push more people into electric vehicles, putting that sales credit in place for them, that may have been what could be hurting the industry altogether, because there was an appetite for EVs, or there was an appetite for Teslas. There still is, by the way. But could you argue that the government getting involved may have hurt the industry?
Oh, absolutely. Pete, you hit the nail on the head there, that if this credit is propping up, it's also, this tax credit serves as a way of the government putting their thumbs on the scale and favoring one business over another. And as you mentioned, Sean, it really is it is a way of negatively hurting the market, because if EV sellers are worried about their market share in a free market where people are allowed to vote with their dollar, what are these EV manufacturers going to do? They're going to find ways to innovate. They're going to find a way to provide this product at a price people are willing to pay. And when you don't have a tax credit backing you up, you're going to find ways to lower your costs, to give cars with the features that consumers want, and allow people to vote with their dollar. Because when you have that tax credit backing you up, there's less of an incentive to innovate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what consumers do with that. Let's talk about our neighbors to the north for a moment. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is temporarily lifting the federal sales tax off a number of items and is sending checks to millions of Canadians who are dealing with rising costs there. This as a federal election looms there. Let's talk to you, Pete, first, and then Thomas, I want to get your reaction to this too. What do you think? Is this like an election gimmick? What is this?
Well, it certainly is an election gimmick, but I'll give Prime Minister Trudeau credit for one thing. He said when he announced this that government can't change or manipulate prices at the cash register, so we have to do something else. He might want to give Kamala Harris a call. She actually proposed price controls on groceries here in our country.
Yeah, and I think that hurt the campaign. I mean, she dropped that very, very quickly. Thomas, do you want to respond to that?
Oh, yeah, and I don't really study our neighbors to the north all that often, but this definitely reminds me of some Hail Mary plays right before an election. And you see, you hear about folks who want to cut taxes or cut people a check even as a desperate attempt to say, look, I'm lowering costs, whereas evidence for years and years is that prices have been going up, and Canadians, from what you hear, they've been struggling pretty badly. So yeah, this unfortunately seems more like a gimmick than a permanent fix.
Yeah, no one will reject free money, but there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly.
The hard way. Thomas Savage, Pete Sepp, thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you
My
very
pleasure.
much.
All right, Russian President